Do you wonder, what is my pet thinking and feeling? Or do you sometimes think, what does my pet's behavior mean? Would you like to learn how to connect with your animal in a deeper and more profound way? And how about a mini reading of what's going on with your pet? If so, then today's show is for you. Our guest will be talking about how our everyday interactions with our pets have the power to transform us. And she'll be doing some mini readings of your animals. So, as you know, as I like to say, get your pen and pad ready. You're going to want to take some notes. Buckle up. We're getting ready to take a ride in the quantum field and possibly way beyond. Buckle up. I wouldn't want you to go flying off to another dimension, or just maybe, that's exactly what you need. Welcome to the People and Pet Show. Welcome to the People and Pet Show. Thank you for being with us today. And I'm so honored to have with us our guest, Denise Mange. Denise, how are you?
I'm doing great. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to everyone out there. And thank you all for being here now, seeing it live or on replay. You know, there are so many things you could be doing with your time right now. And we are both so grateful that you've chosen to spend some of it with us. You know, like I said, you're going to get a lot of value out of today's conversation. And you're going to want to take some notes because we have a really great guest on. Please give us some likes and loves on this page as you're seeing the broadcast. And please type in your comments in the chat box as we're going. Please let us know where you're seeing the show today. Where are you in the world? And as we go along in our conversation, please let us know if you have any questions for Denise about your pet. You know, like I said, your pet's behavior, what it might mean. She's going to be doing some mini readings in a little bit in the show. So with that preamble, let me introduce myself. My name is Mark Hernandez. I'm the owner and founder of People and Pets Energetics. I'm a holistic practitioner that helps people, animals, and spaces when they've hit the wall with health and well-being issues. Basically, I have intuitive gifts and extensive training to read the subtle energies of people, animals, and spaces and situations, and identify and release non-beneficial energies locking to place people's stuff or animals. So what commonly gets people in the door for a consultation? Well, for most people, they're in some level of pain. Often it's a physical pain. They've already seen their Western medical doctors about their situation, gotten all their tests run. Maybe the results come back and the doctors say, we think it's X, Y, and Z, do Z, T, and O. You do it, and maybe you're a little better, but something's still missing. Maybe you've seen some alternative practitioners, your chiro, massage, acupuncturist, or whatever it is. And again, you see more improvement, but there's still that missing piece. So after you've done all through the low-hanging fruit, the things that help 90% of the people, and you're still stuck, that's when people will come see me. For your pets, two main categories, those changes in behavior, you know, that peeing and pooing in the household, separation anxiety, you add a new pet to the mix and the dynamics get wonky. So that's category one. And the other thing is maybe you've taken your pet to the vet and the vet has found something veterinarily going on, like some growth or something. I can provide a layer of energetic support. And finally, for your spaces. This is for the open-minded people that know that something's just off with their space. Maybe it's a real estate agent that has a property. They're very open-minded. They know what needs to go into a property to sell. It's about to sell, and 7 times in a row, the deal comes undone for no logical reason. Most likely, there's some energies on the property or in the house that are locking in place that stuff. So I do consultations in person, like at holistic fairs, and remotely by phone or video technology. So that's who I am and what I do in a nutshell. So now let me turn and introduce our guest today. Okay, Denise Mange. She's a pet expert and founder of Pet Prana, combining traditional and techniques with numerology, meditation, and energetic considerations of pet guardianship. Denise's work, give me 1 second. Denise's work highlights how our everyday interactions with our pets have the power to transform us. After a decade of working for some of the most prestigious advertising agencies in New York City, she left Madison Avenue to work with pets and their humans. Denise's proprietary process, called Translating Beyond Behavior, provides a roadmap to how your pet's behaviors can give you insight into the transformation that is already taking place, including limiting beliefs, to re-examine and which chakras they're affecting. Her integrative approach helps foster true partnerships. Okay, it's very important. True partnerships, deep partnerships, and heart-centered connections that deepen the understanding of the lessons that your animal companions are here to share with you. As she says, think of it as self-help for pet's sake. Denise received her BS from Boston University, her dog trainer certification from Animal Behavior College. She's a certified animal communicator and intuitive energy reader through top experts in the field, and a member of the Association of Pet Dog Trainers. Her articles have been featured in publications spanning from pet guardianship to conscious living. She's been interviewed on numerous radio shows and podcasts, has sat on expert panels, and has been a featured speaker on keynote stages. As a thought leader in the field, Denise has been invited to help develop the pet category for a top-rated wellness app. The topic of our conversation today is translating your pet's behavior, going from to om. Denise, welcome to the People and Pets Show.
Thank you so much. I love the energy you infused into all of that. And, you know, it's so neat because my background is similar to so many other people's background who started in corporate, then just found this passion for animals and the energy. And it's amazing how many pet professionals have come together and found that cross section where pets meet energy and healing for the animals and the humans involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just take a peek at the chat, see who's on today. Ask people to let us know where they're from. Okay, we have, okay, let me show it. All right. All right, we have Kelly Fisher. She says, hello, Denise and Mark. Thank you, Kelly, for being with us.
Hi there.
Yeah, we have Kim. Let's see. Okay. We have Kim from Wisconsin. She's a regular viewer of the show. Thank you, Kim, for being on. She says, good morning. And we have someone from Europe, Astrid. She says, good morning. Greetings from Holland.
Oh, wow.
And finally, we have Livia from Louisville, Texas, which is in the Dallas area. Thank you, Livia, for being with us. So thank you again. As we go on during the conversation, please write any questions or comments you have for Denise. So Denise, as I said, many people already know your work, familiar with your work. For others, you may be brand new. Share with us some key moments in that transition you made from the advertising world in Madison Avenue to what you're doing today. What were some of those pivotal moments?
Yeah. So absolutely. So, you know, we were talking a little bit beforehand. I actually grew up in Brazil, in São Paulo, which is a major metropolitan city like New York City.
Absolutely.
And so growing up, we actually were not allowed to have pets, right? We lived in an apartment building. You know, we weren't allowed to have traditional dogs or cats. So I went around and I would find caterpillars and doodle bugs, and those kind of became my pets, right? Anything I could get my hands on, I would try to connect with. And I had this, you know, like most of us growing up, we have this very intuitive aspect to ourselves. And then, of course, you grow up and you have to choose a career. And I chose advertising, and I got, you know, really caught up in that corporate, get up, do your job, no 9 to 5. It was like, you know, 20 hours a day. If you could sleep 4 hours a night, you were in good shape. But in, retrospect, advertising was actually the perfect corporate job leading up to what we're going to be talking about, because it's all about understanding the insights, understanding people's motivations, understanding underlying trends, and trying to get to the bottom of the symbolism behind shapes and colors. So it was actually the perfect introduction into the work that I do today. And so I was, I loved advertising. I was, very good at it, kept getting those promotions, climbing that corporate ladder. And then truthfully, my body just, gave out. I had one of those moments, a health crisis, which, a lot of us go through because we're not listening to those small signs.
Yeah.
And so I left advertising and I was like, gosh, what am I going to do? And, one of the last brands I worked on was Purina. And I loved talking about people and their pets. And I've always loved animals. And I was like, gosh, I'm the last person who should be working with animals because I don't have any hands-on experience. You talk to a lot of dog trainers and they're like, I grew up with dogs. I know, everything there is to know about a dog. So I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I really need to, get some traditional training. So that's where I went through the dog training program. And it was kind of neat to go through it as like a tabla rasa because I had to learn everything, so I completely understand when I'm working with pet parents and it might be their first pet or they haven't had a pet in a long time. And I can relate to what it feels like with, okay, I have a dog, they're home now. What do I do? And so I was working with, animals and they're humans. I got certified. And, there was actually a point where I was going to quit and go back to advertising because I was like, this just isn't really fulfilling. Just asking these dogs to sit and do this and that. Like, I feel like I'm just bossing them around. I don't know. And into my inbox popped up something about animal communication. And I was like, well, that's interesting, but I don't think that's for me. Deleted it. Next day it kept popping up. I was like, all right, you know what? Let's pursue this thing. And then the rest I would say is history, but it's actually everything we're going to be talking about today, which is, through learning about, the energy and reconnecting with my ability to speak to the animals. I was able to combine the traditional dog training with the energetic aspects. And then that's when rubber hit the road. Because what I found is when you're working with an animal companion, you can do all the traditional training in the world, but if you don't address the energetic aspects of what's going on, you're not going to see those big shifts.
Absolutely. I love that what you said, because I always, tell people I have a similar story in that, like I said, I grew up with dogs in my case, but I didn't really get into the pets till I was actually in Taiwan when I accepted an invitation to go to ice skating, and that led me to the pets.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think that's important. Like you said, bringing the synergy of, like that traditional dog training, because often dog trainers will come to me and, often dog training is successful, but there's a missing piece. And often it is that energetic. So I'm completely with you. Yeah. So, great. So tell us a little bit more about the system translating beyond behavior. How do you use it to work with animals? Could you give us a little sample or describe it?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that I came up with. We can go into it a little bit more about how it was downloaded. Spoiler alert, it's got some galactic consciousness to it.
Love it.
But what happened is I was working with, a lot of pet parents, and in New York City in particular, it had to do with on-leash reactivity. Think of rush hour, think of how hectic it is. Poor little pups, right?
Yeah.
So they're barking on leash, they're upset. And we were doing all that traditional training, all of it. And we weren't seeing those shifts. So I understand at that point, all right, we got to get into the energetics. And, I was definitely picking up here and there what was going on in the household with the human. When I would sit down and ask them at the beginning of a consultation to just talk about the dog, all this stuff would just kind of come in about what was truly going on in the background.
Yeah.
And I started realizing that there were patterns that, at that point, all the pet parents that I was working on with on-leash reactivity had some sort of instability in their life. Maybe they were between jobs, or maybe they weren't very secure in their relationship, or there were some issues with the family dynamic. And I was like, gosh, and then I kind of thought back, because in high school I got certified as a Reiki practitioner. So I was like, well, that kind of is reminiscent of the first chakra. Interesting. And so basically what happened is throughout those few months or that year, I started kind of collecting all this data and observing that, okay, with separation anxiety, when I get called in, typically the mom is one of those self-sacrifice moms, you know, the
Mhm.
martyrdom kind of energy comes through really strongly. I was like, well, that's kind of second chakra like, interesting. So basically what I ended up doing is creating my own proprietary process, translating beyond behavior, where we get to the energetic crux of your pet's behavior. So
Mhm.
I linked your pet's behavior to each chakra. That way
Mhm.
we have a jumping off point as to not only, you know, considering energy, but what specifically in the energy do we need to look at, right? Because when we're working with our dog and, you know, or our cat or any animal, and they're having behavioral issues and we're getting frustrated, we might acknowledge, like, sure, okay, there's something in the energy, but what is it, right? So
Mhm.
with my system, you have a jumping off point, you have a starting point. So I've linked, for example, on leash reactivity with matters of the first chakra. So we
Mhm.
want to look in the human, what's going on with issues of, you know, your interconnection. Do you feel grounded in your reality? Do you feel stable? You know, what was your relationship with your maternal figures? If I get called in for separation anxiety, I say, all right, let's look at the issues of the second chakra. How are you balancing your needs with everyone else's in the house or in your career? So it's funny because people say, Denise, you're basically, you know, my dog trainer, but you're kind of my life coach too, because we talk
Mhm.
about it all and we go in. So with that, we're able to get some jumping off points so we can go into the energy and start doing the work. And then we uncover, you know, the layers deeper and deeper, almost like an onion. But it's nice to have a very didactic almost thing, a reference point, you know, just like Louise Hay provided, all right, if your back hurts, this is the energy that you should start looking at. You know,
Yes.
it's kind of the same thing for your pet's behavior.
Fabulous. Very, very, very interesting. Yeah, I always see that too. You know, people often bring their pets and thinks it's all everything's going on with the pet, but it often
Yeah.
tracks back to what's going on with the human. So I
Yeah.
connect with that completely, and I'm sure the listeners do too. Great. So over the last year, you know, you mentioned leash reactivity. What are some of the top three reasons people have sought your help with their pets?
So leash reactivity is a big one, separation anxiety, and then accidents, right? Those are the three that at that point they get their human's attention, right?
Yeah.
They could have been doing small little things along the way, but those are the ones that typically are the biggest deal. And interestingly, it's because it disturbs others,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of people, especially I find interesting with separation anxiety, because it is issues with the second chakra and you're managing your needs and other people's needs. They're like, it doesn't bother me at all, but I'm so concerned about my neighbors, you know? So it's like they're kind of playing out that putting other people's needs first. And once it affects other people, then they'll seek help for themselves, which
Hmm.
is part of the mindset that we have to start shifting, which is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to ask the viewers, those that are listening, if you'd like a mini reading, what type of information would you need for a mini reading today?
It's always helpful to get the pet's name because I do pull pet numerology as well. That's part of what I do. And just anything going on, whether it's a behavior or maybe you just have a question about, you know, what's going on with them, you're feeling something's not right with them, just a quick little synopsis.
Okay. Yeah. So if as y'all are listening, you have something going on your pet, you're curious about something going on with your pet's behavior, please, this is an excellent opportunity. We have a really great guest that will love to give you a mini reading of what's going on with your pet. So please type in your question and with that information in the chat box.
And as folks type in, you know, it's worth mentioning, you know, we have a mutual acquaintance, Ana Maria Vasquez. She's one of my mentors and she's amazing. She was the first person to explain to me pets as mirrors, right? So when we talk
Mhm.
about this whole process of translating beyond behavior, it's, you know, people are like, well, okay, so I get that the chakras link up to the pet's behaviors. So whose chakra are we looking at? Are we looking at the dog's chakra or the cat
Mhm.
chakra? Are we looking at my chakra? And that's what makes it so fun because there might be issues affecting, you know, both of you guys because we do mirror each other's energy. I think any pet parent out there would say that, you know, when they come home and they're feeling sad, you know, their animal companion picks up on it and they kind of join you in that emotional state. It's what a few years ago was really that hot topic of emotional intelligence. Remember, where
Mhm.
they're like, you know, you enter a room and you meet the energy of the room, you kind of read that energy. Our
Yeah.
animals have been so amazing at doing that. And in meeting our energy, we're able to see the reflection of how we're doing, how we're feeling. It's that amazing opportunity to have some real live feedback in real time.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me go back to the comments, see if, let's see. Okay, wow, here we go. All right, so this is from Astrid from Holland. Hi, Denise, could you help with my Newfoundland, Tonka? The dog's name is Tonka.
Mm-hmm.
He used to love little kids, but nowadays he wants to run away from them. I don't recall anything happening. What could have spooked him?
Okay, beautiful. So let me kind of feel into this. And I'm just feeling into Tonka's energy. And so one thing that's really interesting about Tonka is he has a lot of that sensitive energy. Just in quickly pulling his numerology, his overall name vibrates at a 22, 24, 25. So he has that 7 energy. So 7 energy for pets is all about kind of being the philosopher kings of the animal world. And they really connect us to our crown chakra, our 7th chakra, and to our, our connection with the universe. So they help us clarify that. What I'm showing also, what I'm seeing with Tonka is within his name, he has 2 11s, which in numerology are master numbers, which get to us to that 22, that building foundations in love. And what Tonka is mirroring right now, what I'm hearing from him is that it is time to revisit some of the childhood traumas that happened in your life, Astrid, that maybe you've been running away from or placating or trying to ignore or say, you know what, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's fine. It's fine. Now he's mirroring back to you in his behavior. We really got to revisit that because there's some deep-seated fears that we want to get rid of before we enter that 2020, that foundation of love, right? Because he's really pulling in that master vibration of 22 over 4, which is all about building new foundations in love, self-care, really protecting your own energy. So he's saying this last quarter, focus on any childhood traumas that you might not be acknowledging as being a big deal. He's saying they were a big deal. Let's look at this. We need to heal that relationship and the trust that you have between you and that little girl aspect of yourself, because there was an abandonment. And by not acknowledging the fear and the issues that went on, it feels like a little bit of a betrayal of the little one. So let's kind of come back in love, do some healing, and revisit anything that might have been swept under the rug a bit.
Great. So Astrid, if you want to write in, see if that resonates with you, just, yeah. So yeah, thank you. That was fabulous. We also, let's go to post Kim's question. Let's see. Okay. So this is from Kim from Wisconsin. My rescue dog, Rosie, nips at my boys sometimes when she is sleeping on her bed or on the couch. She is very affected by storms and gets afraid.
Bless her heart. Okay, so So part of what's going on, Kim, something that's popping up, it's so interesting because within Rosie's name, she has a lot of very sensitive numbers. With, within her name, she carries the vibration of 96 and 95. And so that 9 is that old soul, compassionate, that very sensitive. And then 6 is all about family dynamics and parenting and caregiving. And 5 is about emotions, right? So Rosie is an incredibly sensitive little one. Part of what Rosie is mirroring is an imbalance in the dynamic between the masculine and the feminine. She's nipping at the little male energy because she's what she's telling me is there's this belief in your energetic milieu that little boys grow into bad men. They do bad things. And so there's a little bit of that belief that's ready to be re-examined and released. We know our little boys are wonderful. We know that we can raise them to be respectful, that, the old patriarchy no longer has the hold that it did. So she's reflecting a little bit of the remnants of that kind of belief, whether it's from the collective or maybe it's something that you experienced in your past. And the thunder also has to do with that. It has to do with like that booming power, that commanding patriarchy energy that you just feel like you can't deny, that you're at the mercy of. So look a little bit at that. And then, because it's always important to go the traditional training as well, I think the energy is, just as important as the traditional training. You want to make sure to empower Rosie and the boys for them to learn to interact together. So having them practice very simple commands together. I mean, I have a 2-year-old nephew, and he does looks, touches, and sits with the dogs I bring over to play. That way they're collaborative. They have a protocol together. They're taking the lead from each other. They're working together in a collaborative way rather than a dominant way, or, picking, the hierarchy, who's in charge in that moment. And then with the thunder, desensitization is always really important, especially for any of the pet parents listening right now. At the 2-year mark, dogs go through a really big fear imprint period. And typically, if they are going to be afraid of thunder, that's when it really kind of kicks into high gear. So whether you're leading up to that point, or you have a dog like Rosie, who at any age might be fearful of thunderstorms, start doing some desensitization. So go on YouTube, play some sounds of thunderstorms, some sound effects, and practice commands. It doesn't hold the same realistic feel with the change in the atmospheric, levels, but it's a start. And if you do happen to be home with Rosie during those thunderstorms, help her through it. If she's able to do commands and work with her and give her treats, that's going to help get her mind off things. If she's too fearful and she shuts down, one of my favorite things to do is just sit with the pups, put your hand on their heart, on their back, and breathe with them. And, you can chant, you can sing, just let them know, I hear you, little one. I understand this is scary. I'm here with you. I got you. We're good. We're going to work through this. So I hope that combination of the energetic as well as the, the traditional training helps create some shifts for your family.
Great. Fabulous. Thank you, Denise. So, so Kim, if you want to write back and see how that resonates with you. Let's see, Astrid wrote back. That was the first mini reading. She says, thank you so much. I will try to work with her myself. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Good. Yeah. Cool.
And, I want to thank pet parents who do hop on and they ask these questions, because it makes us vulnerable, when our energy comes through and, we're hearing these things. They can be some pretty big patterns that have been ingrained in our lives. So I just want to thank all the pet parents for asking these questions, for serving as proxies for all of us, because these are all within that collective lesson of patterns we're moving through as we get closer to that 2020. One thing that I think is always important is I'll work with a lot of pet parents and they'll be like, oh my gosh, so had I looked at this and re-examined and reevaluated my worldview and my beliefs, my animal wouldn't be going through this. Oh, I feel so bad. And I always say, let's halt right there. It's not that we're doing anything to our animals. I like to think it as, in school when we had a book report, right? You can either do it on your own or you can do it as a group project. So I like to say that in the energy, as we work with our pets, we're doing a group project, right? We all reading the same book. We all need a book report. So rather than doing it alone, we're doing it together. So it's nothing that we're doing to them, that we're causing to them. It's just we both had these lessons. We had the soul contract to go through this together. And as we work through it, we all kind of reach more of that kind of personal growth and self-actualization.
Yeah, I think what you said about my understanding and is that pets, that we have soul contracts with the pets that come into our lives, and that's part of the journey. Like you said, working through different pieces, either the animal stuff or our stuff, and that's very important. Yeah. So you've made several allusions to 2020. That is around the corner. Where October, it's going to be here sooner than we think. Can you elaborate a little bit about what do you see right now from this vantage point coming up in 2020 for most people and animals?
Yeah, so I think, Mark, you would agree with me. Even in the past, I would say even 5 years, there has been such tremendous momentum in people understanding that animals are sentient, that energy affects. Even the past 2 years, if you go on Instagram, crystals are everywhere, chakras are everywhere, Reiki, yoga, there's really been this acceleration towards even in mainstream, because it used to be just fringe. It used to be like,
Yeah.
certain groups and pockets where we talked about energy, we talked about Reiki, we talked about, galactic consciousness, all these things. Nowadays, it's become so mainstream. And as we enter that 2020 energy, the way it's been shared with me is we're entering that age of Aquarius that we've all been, hearing about and talking about. And although it won't feel like an overnight shift, there's this huge momentum towards people understanding that we're all interconnected, and that we're able to create these new organizations, foundations, and philosophies that no longer rely on the patriarchy. If we think even just, with dog training, up until this point, it was Caesar Milan. I can't tell you how much we heard about Caesar Milan, Caesar Milan's way, Caesar's way, which was more about the patriarchy and the dominance. And there was a role for that at the time, because at the very least, he raised awareness that we need to work with our animal companions. But there's been such an insurgence of people talking about the animals and how they are sentient beings, how they're conscious beings, how they deserve respect, how they have, rights just like humans. And beyond that, how the plants, we have to take care of our planet. We're all taking responsibility is what it feels like. We're realizing that we're all in this together, whether human, furry, scaled, plants. And that's how we're going to step into that 2020. That's how we usher in. And so if you're feeling that same excitement about ushering in more respect and more a new energy around pet guardianship, there's really small things we can do. If you don't have an animal, you're able to even shift your vernacular, right? So I don't use the word pet owner. I say pet guardian or pet parent, because I think that just gives credit where credit is due, right? Even making those small little tweaks helps us understand where we're going. And for me, I know this is long-winded, but the last thing I'll say is, we had the Caesar Milan phase. And then we had the phase of my dog is my baby, my pet's my baby, I love my baby, I want to throw them a party. I think 2020 becomes, wow, my pet is my partner. I can actually learn from them. It's not that there's just this baby love. It's no, they're a partner. We can learn from each other and grow spiritually along the path. So there may be good moments, there may be trigger moments, but we're taking a more conscious, mindful approach to our animals as well.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Let me go back to the chat box. Let's see here. We have Donna Dunn joining us. Good morning. Thank you, Donna. And for those that are just joining, my guest, Denise Mange, is doing some mini readings of your pets. So if you have something going on with your pet, want to know what your pet's behavior means, please write in the chat box your question. Put the name of your dog and the gist of what's going on with your pet, and we'll go from there. So thank you, Donna.
And it can be cats. It can be any animal. Because although I don't have the training aspect for some of the other animals, we can definitely check in with the numerology and the energy, because that's an important piece as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. So let's go to Kim wrote back. She says, thank you. I never thought about how deep her actions can be related to imbalances in demand. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay. But I guess connected to bigger things going on. That's how I take it.
I think that's a really interesting point, Kim, because what I found also working with our pets, sometimes even just the awareness or the aha moment, that can create big shifts. Sometimes we're like, oh gosh, okay, now that I know what it is, I have to do some tremendous digging. Sometimes just being able to see what it is and see those patterns help you go, interesting. And then those patterns start popping up in other areas in your life, and you see how it affects your life more broadly. I always say when you start dog training with me or working with me with your pet, even if it's just through reading or remotely, we're going to figure out some patterns. And then all of a sudden you're going to realize, it's like boom, 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 dominoes. You're like, oh, it's been playing out so broadly, just disguises these different things. So, you'll find that, you see changes in your relationships with other humans, with your family, with your friends, with your career. And that's really what our animal companions are here to help us do. They're acting as dress rehearsal so that we can, for example, learn to set healthy boundaries with them, right? And then we learn to translate that skill to other humans in our lives, to our bosses, to, our career, and we go from there. So they're amazing little dress rehearsals because we know they love us unconditionally and we love them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Let's see. Let's see. The comments. All right. Let's see. I'm going to go back again. If you have any other questions for Denise with your pet, what's going on, please type them in.
And so while we're waiting, I'd love to just talk a little bit because I do work with, humans and their pets, the pet parents themselves. And then I've also had the pleasure, especially, I'm thinking of Kelly, she's so attuned to dogs. I've had the ability to work with other pet professionals as well, right? And if you're a pet professional and you're listening to this and you're like, I kind of get it. Maybe I'm already doing this, maybe I'm interested in learning, which behaviors match up with the chakras. All right, cool, I'm in. I'm going to start working with this. One really interesting lesson that I think is helpful for all of us is that lesson of non-attachment, right? Because once you start seeing these ahas in your life or even in other people's life, like pet parents' lives, you can start working with them. You can alert them to the energetics. You can help teach them to do all the traditional training.
Sure.
But sometimes people aren't ready to let go of those patterns. And that's okay too. As pet professionals, we typically want to see that overnight transformation. We want to see the shifts happen. And sometimes it's just not the time. So if you are a pet professional, and especially as we talk about entering that 2020, say your piece, read the room, make sure that you're respecting other people's energies, but you might even be, do something as simple as say, your animal kind of picks up on your energy like a sponge. Have you noticed when you're excited, your dog gets excited, when you're sad, they kind of know that as well. It can be as simple as that to as complex as this is the pattern going on, we can help work through it or not, but it's all about planting those seeds. Right.
Yeah.
And not being attached to, seeing it all out through completion, because everyone's on their own timeline. And sometimes we don't see those shifts overnight, and that's okay too. But maybe 20 years later, there'll be a moment and they're like, wow, I remember that conversation in the kitchen, and it makes all the difference when the energy is ready.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I was okay. Let me check the box. I was going to pick up on something you said. Oh, I know what it was. With the pet professionals, I know probably dog trainers seek consultations with you. What are like pet groomers too? Because I know they're working a lot with animals. Or what about like vet techs or stuff like that? Who kind of in that pet professionals categories has to date at least sought your help?
Yeah, it's been a lot of dog trainers, as you might imagine, and then dog walkers and doggy play groups. I do consult with some vets, the groomers less so, but what I have found is more and more grooming, they're using aromatherapy to help calm the dogs. A lot of people are coming to us, as a spiritual community about plant medicine. What's up with CBD with pets? Up, what does lavender, is that soothing? When we talk about separation anxiety, we always want to put on some Reiki music in the background to help balance those chakras. We can put on some essential oils in the diffuser. One thing to note, animals have a lot more sensitive sense of smell than we do, so you want to make sure that it's appropriate for pets and the dosage. But everything's becoming so much more mainstream. I think plants tend to be the first way in for like the vet techs and the groomers, but for the dog trainers, the dog walkers, people who have those kind of one-on-one connections and bonds and spend a lot of time with the animals, they've already kind of run loops around that, and they're into the like, all right, which chakra are we working with? What are some cool new modalities we can do? And how can I open up my channel? Because for me, it's really about empowering both pet parents or pet professionals to find your flavor. I don't want to teach you, I can give you a guideline of things to consider, but we all bring a different flavor into this beautiful world that we're co-creating with the animals. So it's about helping them trust and foster their own connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I always agree that, customized approach to whatever people need for that given time situation, works best. And what you said about the pet professionals, I find that often, like this, at least this is my observation with a lot of holistic vets, when they're doing the holistic work, still tends to be working with the energy systems in a physical way, like massage, acupuncture, Chinese herbs. And that I've noticed some will do Reiki, but I'm curious, and I'm sure they're out there, but see a vet that does like tapping or other other things, just working with the subtle energy fields. Maybe that's the next
Yeah,
one too for the vet.
that's interesting. That's a good point.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to go back. We have Kim wrote back and she says, oh, can we do a second? Because right now I think,
Yeah.
yeah, she says, okay, I have another rescue dog named Gracie. Gracie. She gets overexcited when she sees a snake, squirrel, chipmunk, cat. If she is off leash, she will chase and kill it if she gets it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that becomes one of those things where, okay, twofold. I'm seeing where Gracie wants me to start. So let me just feel into her. Interesting, Kim. Your animals have a lot of this 9-5 combo. So Gracie has the 95 in you, and then the 79, which is still kind of that bridge. So everything they do in a compassionate, kind of divine energy. And I know when we talk about Gracie chasing and killing a squirrel or something like that, it doesn't feel very graceful and compassionate, but it's that reminder of honoring the instincts, right? So honoring the instincts of the animals, their prey drive, it's kind of what they were built to do. So if we try to turn that off too much, we're kind of taking away who they are. We're taking away the spark. So there are ways that we can flip that into more productive things, right? Because two things in our society, we can't have a dog running off on leash. You might be in a more populated area and it could be a safety issue. Also, for our own heart's sake, we probably we don't like to see that. So if you can take her to some sort of like agility or nose work class, play with balls, stuff like that, where you can leverage her prey instinct, but she's not going after the live stuff. There's a toy for dogs that I love. It looks like a little plush log with a lot of little holes in it, with a lot of little chipmunks that you stuff in and they have to dig in and pull them out. Those kind of toys will be really helpful for Gracie because we want to honor all aspects of who she is. And then from a training standpoint, we also want to make sure that when we're going for walks with our dogs on leash, it's not necessarily playtime, right? We want to give them direction. We want to keep them focused on us. We want to be the most exciting, relevant part of the walk. So that's where, if Gracie knows any commands, practice commands during the walk. I particularly like the touches and the looks because it keeps them physically close to us. And then a few things I like to do, the hustle steady game, where if you guys are on leash, you'd get a sit, look, little one, okay, let's go. We take a couple steps, then I go hustle, and I walk a little faster, and then steady, and it's ridiculously slow motion. And then I might turn sharp left, sharp right. So it's really about kind of creating a little bit of this fun game where you speed up, you slow down, you're flipping around. So the walk isn't so predictable, because sometimes, we get lazy, we go on the same route, our mind's wandering. They're really asking us to be present in the moment on leash so that we can have that connection. Mark mentioned that I'm partnering with a wellness app to start a pet category. Mm-hmm. And so part of what I'm doing is on leash meditation. So it's like a 5-minute thing that you listen to in the beginning of your walk, giving you some reflections on what you and your animal companion can kind of feel into and discuss energetically. It might sound silly, but it's such a beautiful way to bond and connect with your dog on a walk and make it a bit more exciting. So I think those two things will be really helpful. One, understanding that she's a beautiful, multidimensional little soul, just like we are. So she has as sweet of instincts as she has prey instincts. So we want to redirect those prey instincts into different activities that we find more appropriate, but while still honoring her. And then make sure that on the walks, our energy is connected, that we're staying relevant and interesting and present in the moment.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. Let's see. Okay. We have another comment back from Astrid. Let's see. She says, can you give me a hint how to best make contact with my inner child so I can help Tonka and myself?
Yes, you bet. So that is beautiful, Astrid. And Astrid, I might be wrong, but I believe we've connected before. If we haven't, I feel very connected to your energy. So thank you for joining us this morning. Let me see what Tonka wants to say about that. So I'm just feeling in. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting because they're showing me like cartoon energy. There's one in particular. All right, which one is it, you guys? So they're showing me like those Disney cartoons from the 50s. You might want to go back and watch some of those. You know, we're going into kind of some fall weather. It's a great time to get up on the couch, but something that's going to put you back in that mindset, something that you remember watching, because what they're showing me is there's been a little bit of a disconnection, and in focusing rather than trying to be like, okay, what's going on with you, little one? What was the big trauma? You know, what was happening with you? Rather than going in for that big conversation, you guys need to do an intro back into each other's emotions. So by reacting and remembering those cartoons or those movies that you watched that were beautiful and had a lot of different emotions, they're showing me you remember being like, oh yeah, I remembered, I loved this part. And you kind of feel that energy in you, and that's how you slowly reconnect back. So for you in particular, that's how they're showing me to reconnect with that little one, have that reintroduction, and then you can go deep. You know, the same way that if we approach someone at a party, we're not going to dive into what's your deepest, darkest secret. We're going to have a little small talk. That's what they're saying could be really helpful with to do with your little girl. And they're saying this is a beautiful, beautiful time to do it. And it truly is an invitation to take the make the commitment to watch those movies and just be in stillness for a bit. Because the fact that you guys do need to be reintroduced means there's a lot of healing that's about to happen there for you guys. And Tonka is that bridge as well. So they're showing me stroke Tonka. Tonka will be near you. You will be safe. Tonka will keep both of you safe. It's safe for both of you.
Excellent. Excellent. Very specific feedback of things she can do to reconnect to her inner child. Thank you. Yeah. So, right. So, so Denise, if you could share with us some of your favorite all-time success stories with your clients, like one or two.
Absolutely. So let's see so one of, because we talk about on-leash reactivity so much,
Yeah.
I love to talk about this one pup in particular, and he was amazing. He was actually my first client. He was in New York City, and he had some on-leash reactivity. You know, he would bark and lunge at other dogs, and, you know, New York City is a perfect, you know, place for them to be really stressed out about all that because you're constantly around other dogs. And so we did a lot of traditional training, and his pet parents were actually a young couple, and they were getting married at the time. And so they were going through the wedding preparation, all that stuff. For anyone who's ever been married, you know how stressful that can be. And so, you know, we were connecting, we were talking about the pup, and they're saying, you know, we're still seeing some issues. So they did say, you know, as we talked more about the energy, they said, you know what, I think we're noticing that when we fight, it gets worse. You know, the dog starts reacting more outside on leash than he usually does. So they started realizing that there was that pattern. And so at the end of the day, you know, long story short, the dog was reflecting back to them unresolved energy and kind of the sense of disconnection. It was us versus you. It was my family versus your family, me versus you, us versus them. So it was really about those issues around the first chakra, not feeling grounded, not feeling safe, not feeling that interconnection, right? And so in that, they realized that if they want to see changes in, you know, the dog's on-leash reactivity, that the behavior had to start with them. So they made a commitment that, you know, if they were having, you know, issues or disagreements, that before they went to bed, they would say 3 things they were happy about that happened in the day, and 3 things that maybe hurt their feelings or, you know, would need a little resolving, or they just wanted to get off their chest. And so with that, along with the traditional training, they saw amazing results. The dog, I mean, I think there was one dog that it was just his nemesis. And that happens. Dogs just have that one dog they never get along with no matter what. Yes. But the on-leash reactivity declined. And then it helped to serve as a barometer, because if they found themselves kind of creeping up into being less mindful about their relationship, the dog would reflect it. So, you know, that would, to me, is a tremendous success story, because it helps them understand as a family unit how their relationship, their interactions had that ripple effect. And they understood how their dog was a little bit of a barometer.
Yeah.
So that was a really neat one that I always think of fondly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. There's sometimes the first our first interaction with clients are the most memorable. I think back to Taiwan, some of the things I work with the pets when I was there. Yeah, very cool. Thank
Love
you.
that. And
Yeah.
there's another one actually just happened recently. And so that one was very much, training. The other one that just happened recently was it was just a remote reading. So they were somewhere else in the country. Maybe they were even in Canada. And the dog was having accidents, just nonstop accidents. And it wasn't a puppy either. So, we knew something was up. And so accidents, I always link to the sixth chakra. Sixth chakra has to do with family dynamics, with illusion versus reality, how you thought things would be, how they are, seeing people in situations for, what the energy is versus what we project. And so we were in that vein, and I was doing a second reading with them because, we talked about the traditional training, things still hadn't normalized. And so right before I hopped on, the dog showed me betrayal, father, betrayal of a sexual kind. And just then he showed me, they often speak to me in movies. I don't know if it's the same with you, Mark, but I'm such a TV addict.
Yeah.
They showed me that scene from Good Will Hunting, that it's not your fault at the end, where he goes, it's not your fault. You don't get it. It's not your fault. This wasn't yours. And so I was like, okay, that's really interesting. So I hop on the phone. I'm like, listen, before we even connect, this is what I'm getting. And the woman just started crying. She was like, how did he tell you that? That's amazing. She said she was in her bedroom with him, the day before. And that was the conversation she was having. Her father had had an affair growing up, and she felt really responsible, like it was her burden to keep. And she said to the dog, she was like, I literally was saying, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. And so with that, they were able to release. And that actually was an overnight transformation. Talk about when, you bring awareness to it, then the animal's like, okay, we got it. We're good. Okay.
Yeah.
And the accident stopped. So it's really neat how the animals bring forth some amazing things.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people say, but they weren't with me in childhood. How do they know what happened in my childhood? And they just pick up on the energy. They're experts at reading the energy, and so are we. We just don't give ourselves enough credit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great. So as we're getting ready to close today's show, do you have any final thoughts or comments for the audience you'd like to leave them with?
Yeah, I want to say thank you again for everybody sharing their vulnerability, for being open to it. Because again, when our animal companions are reflecting things, it's because we're ready. They want to empower us to bring in better energy, more sourcing energy, more harmony for us. Because when we're better parents to them, they can be better pups, and then we're happier parents. It's that whole cycle of when we do better, they do better, and we as a collective vibe higher. So thank you for being part of this, for realizing that our animals are sentient beings, and really being part of this new vanguard of pet guardianship, where we honor the true multifaceted role that our animal companions play with us. Whether it's in a good moment, a frustrating moment, we know that there's love and growth going on. So thank you for being part of this discussion.
Yeah. Great. I'm going to check one more time back with the chat, just see if there are final comments. Oops. Okay. Yeah, Astrid just writes back. She says, thank you so much for your advice.
Oh, you bet. Our pleasure, Astrid.
Yeah, great. So Denise, if people want to learn even more about your work and do a deeper dive, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Sure. Petprana.com is my website. And if you sign up for the newsletter, you get a bunch of, complimentary resources. And be sure to check out the online classes page, because what I offer are some very unique resources and online classes that you can take anywhere in the world. They're on demand. But it's everything from, dog training plus chakra work to a pet numerology workshop, to pets as portals, where we go into journeys into different dimensions using our pets as access points. And if you're on social media, on Instagram or Facebook, you can follow me at Pet Prana as well.
Great. One final comment from Kelly Fisher. She says, love the discussion. Amazing.
Oh, sweet Kelly, sending you so much love. I hope all is well with you in Wisconsin.
Yeah, thank you. And Kim also says, I really appreciate all you shared with me for Grace. You are such a blessing.
Oh, thank you, Kim. Those pups are in great hands. So keep in touch and let us know how things are going.
Yeah, great. So again, thank you, Denise, for being my guest on the People and Pet Show today. It was an amazing conversation. People are definitely want to catch this replay, and those that saw it, because you provide really very in-depth readings in a very concise fashion and a lot of valuable information that they can act on. So thanks again.
Well, thank you for having me, Mark, and thank you for creating this platform where we can have these conversations.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So as you know, we go on the air every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Please remember to comment, like, and share today's show. Each week we'll bring a leading edge guest in the area of holistic health and wellness for people, animals, and spaces. My guest next week will be Mary Beth Decker. She's an intuitive animal communicator and an energy healer from Sacred Grove in Northern Virginia. You'll have a wonderful opportunity to learn more about you and your pets from Mary Beth. And I expect she'll be doing some more mini readings. So please let your friends and family and colleagues know about the show. And as you know, you can always find me here or at my website on peopleandpetsenergetics.com. If there's something I can provide energetic support, please let me know. Again, thank you everyone for your time today, for being on the show, live or on the replay. We'll be in touch. Stay tuned and have a blessed day. Thank you. Bye-bye.